the word that strikes me is the universe is benevolent most of the time. It's only our wits are not sharp enough, to use a phrase from some quote that I half remember right now.
So now there is this गालिब का है ना कि दिल को खुश रखने के लिए ये ख्याल अच्छा है यही ख्याल रखना है मेरे I really don't know what the universe, sometimes it is not benevolent, sometimes it is very benevolent, but I can't move ahead. At least I'm not like I'm basically an optimist, right? तो मैं ये सोच नहीं सकती कि यूनिवर्स मेरे लिए कुछ बुरा कर रहा है, इसके लिए ऐसा कर रहा है, कुछ तो होगा इसमें आगे जाके. Or in this there is something that if weather is not worked out a certain situation for me, there is something that is there because of which this situation has not worked out or has worked out. So it is my working mechanism, you may say. I don't know the truth, none of us know the truth.
Because this benevolence thing also comes from this morning onwards, I've been thinking of certain things, certain patterns of thought I had even in school, and certain poetry that I liked in school that I remember even today. And I was wondering why was I, because those are more about renunciation kind of things, and a lot of them are the benefit of solitude and stuff like that. And I've often wondered, because when you distance yourself from your own self and are able to look yourself as a story of some sort, you realize there are certain patterns that have been taking you always on a certain path, and you have the ability to see them. I think like you used a very good word, self-reflection. Sometimes that happens. There was one thought that was running in my head. I don't have a proper question there, but I'll just go on talking a bit so we arrive somewhere where I would want your comments on. A lot of this is being understood. If I want to just look at what answers you've been giving, or whatever kind of conversation we've been having, one question that you answered inadvertently with the example of dark space was one of the things that we on our path keep on accepting, the first noble truth of suffering. Suffering is there, and just that acceptance that it is there and not making it bigger or smaller, just being there with it, that this is what it is, and it kind of gives you a contextual this. In that sense, I have a couple of friends who have this pessimistic view. They think that things are always going to be wrong and you can trust them to be wrong. So now there is no heartbreak ever. So there is no heartbreak ever. So you're always happy because there is nothing happening which is outside. I'll explain.
No, that's so sad. What a sad thing to say.
So I'll tell you, no, in fact not. They are, these are just words. I don't actually, because being a writer, I think words are just ways of being. You're just trying to figure out
what you make of them. Yeah.
So when they talk about that and I see them and they are the happiest people that I know, they come with this certainty that things may be whatever they are, we will do whatever we can. There is no negotiation on that fact.
Sure.
They will always be bad, but we will be prepared. We will work towards it. We will always plan for it. There is no emotional baggage of pessimism or optimism for that matter.
Right.
But they choose to call it pessimism because they are always, so even when we are joking and I'm saying, at least I hope I get up in time, so you won't. So it starts there. Now you work out 3 alarm clocks if you want to get up in time. Then don't discuss ke kyun nahi ho sakta hai. And I like that because it has forced me to relook at my prejudice about optimism or pessimism for that fact, and it's helped me because you're getting into a sense of doership. You're always, in fact, you've been saying the same thing without, if I were not to get into the optimism, pessimism debate, you said most of the time I am stuck in a place where I have to take the next step. There's no choice about it. So they operate from that premise everywhere. And I enjoy it because as I learned it, I think it gave me a lot of freedom because there's no baggage you're carrying. And you rightly put in one context there where you said people keep judging you. So thanks to, I had 2 long-term patients in the last 2 years, 3 years. And there were a lot of people who thought that I had the hang of the situation. I was always calm. I was always smiling and talking. Whenever this came to me, whenever people, complimented me or said this, oh, I can't do what you can do, I could never see it only. I think all my crying happened after my patients went into the great beyond, where I said, in fact, this morning it just came to me, यार अपने बारे में तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं था, टाइम ही नहीं था. What do I feel about the situation? There is just no time. You have to arrange for the medicine, you have to arrange for the treatment, you have to arrange for their walk, for their caretaker, for this, for that.
Yeah.
And there is just no time to sit and daydream about कि ऐसा लाइफ होता तो कैसा होता और मेरा लाइफ उससे अच्छा है या बुरा है. किधर टाइम है?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
within that, now I've got a new question altogether. Within that, I found there were spaces of genuine happiness with the same people who were struggling, and we both had happiness. Like my patients also, my dad had Alzheimer's, so he was losing his memory gradually. But there came a time where I realized that he loved chai, and if I made him sit for chai, he took his treatment very happily. So I just figured out कि पापा चाय मंगाया है बस आ रहा है तो तब तक करवा लो 10 मिनट लगेंगे. There was some kind of pressure points and some kind of treatment.
Amazing. Yeah.
It worked sometimes. It obviously didn't work sometimes. Like he was angry, he would say, "I'm not going to take it," and who are you and why are you stopping me? And we had really bad things happening in public. But I'm saying most of the time, it also worked on me. Like I felt that यार आज तक इसको चाय को इतने इज्जत से देखा नहीं था. इतना छोटा चीज है बट इतना बड़ा काम कर रहा है मेरे लिए. It is helping me in a situation where my friends have failed me, where my faith is failing me, but chai is helping me. चाय आ गया तो सब लोग शांत हैं. मैं भी शांत है, मैं भी शांत हूँ. So I want to ask you, when you said that whenever you take that step, something else opens.
Yeah.
Is it a belief system that opens it, or sometimes really possibilities open, or is it the mind that is clear? What is it really in your case?
All of it. Any of it can happen depending on different situations, right? Sometimes new possibilities can open up. Sometimes the way I've been thinking about it, or if it's something that I'm say fearing, right? And then I take the next step and I find ki itna bhi fearful nahi tha. So then a belief system changes, right? Or sometimes if it's something at work and I take the next steps and then suddenly the client is throwing 3 more possibilities at me and I'm like, yeah, ye bhi to ho sakta hai. So any or all of it can open up at any point in time. So I feel there is great value in being able to take the next step. That's the only thing I tell myself, yes, because many times now over a period of time, like obviously when I was a kid or when I was growing up or in college, I would be very happy that I can have a certain foresight about life, and it could be my immaturity or whatever, but at that time it worked for me because and I could achieve it also. So when I was in school, I could see that class 12 tak main ye padhai karungi. When I was in class 12, I knew कि मैं graduation में ये पढ़ाई करूंगी. When I was a graduate, I knew कि मैं post grad के लिए क्या पढ़ूंगी. When I was, or why just that, like now for class 12, I knew what I would want to do in postgraduate, right? So I was always a very sharp thinker, or I always knew where I'm going or where I'm headed, right? And when I was doing my post graduation, I knew that I had to come to Mumbai and I had to start working here in agencies or whatever. And then when I was in working in agencies, I knew that over the line I'm going to get into freelancing and I'm going to leave this office ana jana and I'm going to make a whatever. When I was making a whatever, I knew I'm going to make an agency. But last few years just completely threw that equation out of place, and I was like, okay, ye to kuch aur hi ho gaya, kahan ka kahan ho gaya. And I think that's also when I saw like a completely different facet of life, and I realized the merit or value of really taking a step at a time, because in all humility, that's the only thing that you can do. Baki to kuch pata hi nahi hai, right? You just know ki the leg is in my control little bit, whatever it is, and utna tak one step I can take. So अपनी औकात में उतना ही है, उतना ही कर सकते हैं.
If I was cutting a promo for the TV, this would have been अपनी औकात में उतना ही है.
But that's what I really realized कि उतना ही, उससे ज़्यादा sometimes you can't think.
Yeah. because you quoted a ghazal, वो है यही दरखास्त है मालिक मेरी चादर को मेरे पैरों के बराबर कर दे. I have been, while you were answering, I realized that there's been a lot of time that we have taken in this conversation. And before I ask you the last question, one observation I would want to make is that when I started the Vulnerable Me series, I've been talking a lot about vulnerability, and my questions also use the word very often. My guests also use the word very often. Today is one different kind of episode where we are in the vulnerable space without using the word itself. That is a good feeling because it is there's a lot of I keep using food for thought because I don't have a better phrase, but there is a lot of things that I am thinking, okay, oh, this is how we can also relook. So my last question to you would be, you said, I want to contextualize this. In my last conversation with the guest that we had, Mohan, he said that he was very cocky when he was younger, and when he presented his option, he wanted to, he thought there was a lot of, I don't remember the phrase that he used. We are very stubborn about this is the point of view that we have. And he says it really worked for me. I cannot say it was wrong when we were younger because we were defining who we are.
Yeah.
So if I were to contextualize your last answer where you said that you planned your life, if you want to call it. A lot of people call it planning. Ye karungi, fir ye karungi, ye karungi.
Yes, yes.
And then life comes at you and says, hello, intelligent woman, I have a question that you cannot answer. Now tell me what is your answer?
Yes.
Which has happened. I think that's what I meant by the pessimism
Yes.
optimism thing. So how did you?
I think both are fine. ऐसा नहीं कि ये हुआ है तो वो गलत था या वो सही था और ये गलत है. I think life is a mixed bag, right? And I would agree with your previous guest that there is a different spirit in a different every decade we change, right? And life also unwraps in different times. Like when I'm 20, my mom or my dad are not ailing and they are not in like going southward. At 40, you suddenly realize that, and life completely takes a different meaning. Or I'm just saying in different ways because life situations itself change in every decade. As a 10-year-old, you're a different kid. As a 20-year-old, you're a different person. So वो तब आप stubbornness, cockiness सब रख सकते हो because again you have that luxury, right? Again you have that space to do that. But as you reach with every decade, that kind of constricts, and you have to be aware of that and work in accordance with that. Anyway, you please continue your question.
Right, this is wonderful because you've answered it in a far more holistic manner than I would have wanted. I think you covered a lot of ground in terms of values. I'm very happy that a conversation like today's has happened. It is in the previous few days I've been thinking, what kind of space do I want my guests to be in? What kind of conversations do I want to bring up? I'm happier with the vulnerable me is really a better space than my earlier attempts at helping open up guests to talking about these kind of things. The title itself helps where we cannot talk about our successes as much as we talk about how we've handled failure in that sense. But today is really a good space to be in, and I would not want to soil it by giving a particular color to it. So thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your thoughts. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Absolute pleasure, and more luck for your upcoming episodes on the same series.
Thank you.
Right, keep it up.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.